Welcome to PMC Valley channel once again.
Thank you.
My name is Sampath, and this is the first time I'm meeting you.
Yes, yes.
So there are so many people like me who don't know Paripatri. They see you as daughter of Patriji, and they see you on so many online sessions and live sessions. But we wanted to know you more today. That's the intent.
Okay.
So welcome viewers to PMC channel once again. Let's know more about Parimala Patri today. Let's start.
Yes.
So am I interviewing Patriji's daughter or Parimala Patri?
Well, you're just interviewing one girl. That's it. I don't really associate myself as a daughter or somebody. It's just me in this right now. Yeah.
So, but we all know you as Patriji's daughter. But today we want to know you. So I will totally forget about Patriji for some time.
Yes, yes.
So I want to know as if I'm a stranger to you. So tell me about yourself, like start from your childhood.
Okay.
A little about yourself, your family,
Okay.
your work, your career, and then whatever it is till now, your life.
Okay. Well, if I have to start about childhood, I may have to bring a little bit of Patriji in it.
Obviously.
So it's going to be there. So yeah, I was born in a ordinary middle class Hindu family. Growing up, I think until my LKG or the first grade, it was a pretty normal childhood like any other girl, with a father going to work and coming back. And although since my childhood he was always traveling, so I always see him once in a month or twice in a month. It was never like he was every day there. So, and then pretty young, when I was probably 8 years or 9 years old, he quit his job. So things changed. I remember we used to live in a pretty good house in Kurnool. My father got transferred there, so we were in Kurnool. And we had everything. We had a car, a driver, a big house and everything. And slowly, everything was going away. A car went away, then the house went away, then we shifted into a smaller house. So things started changing, but I didn't realize why. I was too young to understand all that. And then again, my whole childhood was until 7th I was in Kurnool. So those years it was pretty intense with the pyramid coming up. A lot of people coming in, a lot of my age people were there, children were there. So there's a lot of fun in the pyramid itself. So I didn't know much of the outside world because this was normal for me. This was what I grew up with. So sitting at home, having 20 people in the house is normal. If I don't see that, it's something not right. So that used to be my growing up until I was a teenager. So when I was a teenager, then things started changing, that I wanted more of my own privacy. I wanted to be alone, not bothered. I wanted my room, my friends that nobody knew. So things changed, and my whole engineering, I was just in my own world. I did my engineering in Hyderabad. So I was in my just own world. I didn't attend any session, nothing. I was just keeping away from anybody who knew I was Patriji's daughter. So that was my engineering, and of course I grabbed the first chance I could to get out of the country and just be free, have fun, and all that. Because at that point I think they were talking about my marriage and stuff, and I was like, no way, this is not happening. I have to get away. So I went to US. My father's brother lives there, so they were pretty instrumental in getting me there because they didn't like meditation. So they wanted me as far as away they could. So that's what I went there, and then that's it. Life was different. I got myself, because again my intention was to get away from meditation. So I made that happen. I made sure that I was away. Nobody knew who I was. So all my adulthood went away in a way that nobody knew who I was. They didn't know about meditation. They didn't know if I talked about meditation, they'd probably be like, you know what, you're crazy or something. So that was it. And then I got married with the man I loved there. Until I think until after 10 years of corporate life, then things shifted. Then I was just a normal, ordinary girl until then. Probably 2014 or 15 shifting started, and then I was becoming me again. I ran away from myself and I came back to myself, to my own roots. So that is the process that happened in the last few years, is coming back to my own roots. The very thing that I ran away from, and I got back to it. So
Why did you come back?
well, it was just, I don't know why, but it just happened. I just had to come back to myself because that is the very core of me. That is my authentic me. I kind of put masks on myself, telling myself that this is not me, this is who I am. So I put on so many masks, pleasing people out of fear that I will not survive here if I don't please people. Or maybe it is because I wanted to be fit in that society. Or maybe I believe that success and spirituality don't go together. If I have to be successful making money, I should not be spiritual because I see my, my background. So all of these belief systems somehow made me put on so many masks on myself. And then I guess it was some kind of awakening that I had to peel off one by one mask, and then just look at the mirror and say, okay, this is who I am. I am not somebody's daughter, I'm not somebody's wife, I'm not somebody's employee. This is who I am. And that is a process that I had to go through.
What made you go through that process?
It was just what made me go through. It just happened. I think the awakening started. I had many signs, like I had, migraines. I started getting migraines, headaches, shoulder pains, all of that and I just ignored all of that, physical pains. Also, social, emotional problems like attracting wrong people into your life, having a bad boss who is not treating you properly. I knew in my childhood, I always knew things come to you easily, you can manifest, and I always manifested in my life. Everything came to me very easily. I never struggled, but I was struggling. So that was a sign I should have, hold on to, that why am I struggling? I should not struggle. Things should come easily. But I am struggling, and I was okay with struggling because I believed struggling is a part of life. So I was okay with it because everybody around seems to be okay with that concept, that struggling is fine. You have to do that. So, but it went on, it got intensified until I got married and I couldn't have kids. And that was the kind of like a dog, like masters were like, this is it, you have to get up now. And then I realized, the doctors were telling me I can't be a mother, and everybody around me telling me stories of failures. And I decided that, you know what, I'm going to be a mother, I'm going to make it happen. And that's when I started getting into this, understanding, okay, let's bring meditation, of course I was always meditating, but I was never teaching. Because I was not confident enough to teach, and this nobody believes me, that I was never confident to teach meditation. I could never tell one person why they should meditate. Unless they came and asked me, oh, Pari, you do meditation. Unless they knew somehow, then I would speak. So this is like a big shocker for so many people because I'm always talking now. So, but it didn't come naturally. I had to first do a lot of research, understand, get into that conviction that this works. And through that process, that awakening happened. And then I got into this soul-seeking process.
So your journey with meditation, can I know about when it started until date? Where is it going?
Well, meditation was always there. I always meditated since my childhood. In fact, in the childhood, I meditated hours to hours. My mother used to conduct summer camps, or rather Dasara camps, where she used to do 16, 18 hours, 24-hour meditation workshops. So all the children were there of my age who we all participated in that. It was like a competition between us, like who will do longer. We were in silence. So it was a fun thing. So that's how I grew up. I used to meditate a lot as a child. Somewhere in the middle, probably I must have not done as much as I wanted. But I always meditated in my own home, although I didn't teach, as I mentioned. So meditation is a very big part of my life for healing or for any process. How I know that I am not meditating is when I see that my life is in a, like everything around is, I don't have time. If I start feeling that I'm struggling with time or struggling with things happening, I know I'm not meditating. So then I go back, because sometimes it happens that you forget, you don't meditate for days together, and my whole life will show me that I'm not meditating. I have to go back and meditate. So I do that.
When did you start believing in meditation, like it will work for you? Because a lot of youngsters, either they do it because parents force them, or or they just reject it.
Right.
But why were you sticking to meditation?
Great question. I think when I started, I always believed in it because I didn't see anything else. And also, I'm hearing that every day. People telling experiences as I was growing up. Everybody is just talking about that. So I'm hearing that as a child. So I was always programmed to do meditation. However, I did explore different kinds of meditation, different guided meditations. Why only this meditation? Why not that meditation? That kind of exploration I did. And through these years, now I'm pretty confident it's Anapanasati. It's like nothing else beats that. I've done gratitude, manifestation, any meditation you name, I've done that. And it's like now I know why this meditation is the ultimate meditation. Why? See, every meditation, whether we do gratitude or some kind of music or some angel meditation or heart meditation, it's like we are tuning ourselves, guiding ourselves to a certain frequency, because everything is frequency. So whether it's heart chakra or Om or anything, it's a frequency. We are channeling our whole attention into that. With Anapanasati, the beauty is that there's no chanting, there's no visualization. So I'm allowing my consciousness to explore where it wants to go, beyond frequencies, beyond, and at some point we connect to the source itself, to the infinite source. And for me, connecting to the infinite source is where I draw upon my energy. So I can really become a multidimensional person through that process. If I'm just tuning every day, just say Om, 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 I'm just in that frequency. I'm not really exploring otherwise. So Anapanasati meditation is the only meditation that connects directly to the source. Like you don't need anything else. So you may do other meditations too. Say for example, you want to work with angels or archangels. You can connect with them. But Anapanasati is a must. It cannot be replaceable.
Right.
It has to be done on its own.
Wonderful. So now you know that Anapanasati meditation is the best. And that's the thing that needs to be taken to everyone in the world. But a person who left his job for this purpose, he was your father. And how did that affect you in a nutshell, maybe? Because you were too young when he left the job, but when you were growing, when you were a teenager, you start comparing yourself with the society. There's a social identity.
Yeah.
There's a clash between the original self and the social self. How did you manage that, and how did it affect you?
Well, as you said, growing up, I didn't feel much the difference. My mother never made me feel any different. But yeah, as I was in college, engineering probably is the time when I realized that, okay, you know what, my family is not as everybody else's family. Although even then at that point, I think I didn't realize much, it didn't hit me so much. Like for example, engineering, to even pay the deposit, to get the seat, you have to, my mother didn't have money. She had to make calls everywhere and ask for money. So that is where I started realizing, okay, you know what, it's she is going through stress. Like it's not easy for her just to ask money from everybody. So that's where I think my belief system, when I said that spirituality and money cannot go together, because my father is spiritual, but there is no money. So I started imbibing that belief system somewhere there, and I wanted to do engineering. I wanted to make money. so that I don't have my mother, feel like that she has to ask somewhere else. She has me that I can give her. So I think that's where it started, that belief systems. I had to go through that process to really understand, okay, even to be successful, to get that, I guess, push to be successful, to be successful in the society's norm. And that was pretty laid out plan. Do engineering, masters, get a corporate job, and that's pretty much is the ladder.
Yes.
So I was just pushed into that way because of that part.
Yeah. The father side of it. When did you start having problems with, this is not right? So definitely you would have had a complaint.
Oh yeah, plenty.
So did you ever look down on him like he's not right?
Yeah, many times. Many times we had arguments. Many times I told him this is not right.
How did he react?
Sometimes he agrees. Sometimes he says he doesn't agree. We fight. So, yeah.
But did he not perform any of his responsibilities because of he being spiritual or he being fully into the spirituality?
Well, in a society terms of expectations from a father, yeah, there were many things that he wasn't there. It was my mother who took up that role. But I think because of our own meditation, we did not give that as a priority. That okay, if he's not there for a cultural event in my college or school, it didn't matter to me, because maybe the expectations were set since I was a child, that he was never there. So I never even had those expectations. If he comes, maybe it feels weird for me. Why is he here now? So that would be and also his energy is so much. In fact, if he comes home, if he stays more than 4 days, we'll be like, okay, when is he leaving? Because there's so many people in the house because of him.
Yes.
And so we can have him for 3 days, great. But after that, okay, he should go now. So that, I mean, of course, I'm saying this right now, I would want him to stay. But at that time, this was my mindset as a teenager, as a college going student, because it was a lot. That was a time, again, I'm talking about 2000. It was really growing in Hyderabad, at least in Andhra Pradesh. So there are a lot of people coming in, and he is a people's man. He wants people around, and that's where he loves interacting and all that. So we can never take that away from him. So yeah, there were a lot of disagreements, and at some point when I went to US, the communication stopped. See, he's a person, whether you are a daughter or a brother or a friend or anybody, if I am not in that frequency, there is no communication, there is no talking, although I'm a daughter. So even when I'm in US, I was completely now non-resonant. I was with his brother, there was complete different conversations. There's nothing to talk. What will I talk? What are you doing? Where are you going? That's the only thing. There's nothing to talk. So they were like 6 months. This probably I've never told anyone. There were 6 months or 3 months that I've never spoken to him because there was nothing to talk. So only now when I got back to being myself, I speak every day. So this is what I think what I realized, that he sees when you're not authentic. He sees through that. And when you're not authentic, there's nothing to talk to you because you're not you. You're talking from the shadow. So, but the moment I became me, he was calling me every single day to talk to me, to ask me. So I realized that this is who he is. He can see through things.
Your father was this. He was full-timer into spirituality. Now you are. So are there any complaints from your family now? Anybody seeing you as devoting too much time for this?
No.
And how is the other side?
Well, it's very amazing that I think it was the stage was kind of set. Probably that's why it took so much time. My mother-in-law, father-in-law, they're all into meditation. In fact, they are from a background where they don't know anything about meditation. In fact, that was the reason why my marriage was kind of delayed, because they were not accepting, because I am from a meditation and they didn't understand what it was. For a normal family to understand my father was not easy. So they didn't understand, but now they're completely into meditation. They teach meditation. My husband is like a pillar standing so that I'm here promoting and doing this job. So it's I think because of them I'm able to do more, like, taking care of children and all of that. Doing this is, otherwise I don't think it would have been possible if they didn't support.
And what made you become a full-timer in this?
I mean, every step I kind of relived my father's emotions, I feel. It was something, I don't know, I was in a corporate job where I had to travel Monday through Thursday, go Monday, come back Thursday. I did it for 10 years. And when I got pregnant, I was like, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to be with my kids. So that's when I started looking for different jobs, and I kind of manifested. That's when I started working with affirmations and manifestation. I kind of manifested a perfect job for myself, right next door, 8 to 5 job, no extra work, and easy and exact pay that I wanted. Everything exactly that I've written in my success plan. It all happened. 1 month went by, second month went by. At the end of second month, I was getting uneasy. So I used to go to the work, sit in front of that computer, and I'm typing and I'm looking at the laptop, and I'm like, what am I doing here? Why am I sitting here and doing this spreadsheet? And that thought went on and on and on. And I would just stare at the computer hours and just thinking, what am I doing here? Why am I here? And at some point, it got me so much that I went to a Telugu movie that I normally don't go. I went to a movie over there, a theater. I was the only person there. And I don't even remember what movie it was. I was just watching because I just didn't want to sit in front of the computer.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
And that's it. And it got me so much that I have somehow it was telling me that I have so much to do. So you have so much to do. You cannot sit here. And then I told my husband, we had a kid, and I told him I have to quit my job. And he was in shock. We are just expanding our family and you want to quit your job. And he was just shocked in the sense like, why suddenly? If it is a gradual discussion that I was talking, it would have been different. But it was just sudden that the thing was happening. So, but I couldn't sit there. That computer and spreadsheet was not for me. And somehow it was coming that money will come. I can make more money by doing something else. I had no plan B. I didn't know what I was doing. I just had to quit. And I gave the notice and I was out.
Maybe that day you understood what would have happened with
that's what I tell him. I understood what you must have gone through. Why you quit your job. Because I had this, it was like, you have to quit. You have to quit.
And that's not what you are here for.
Yeah, exactly. So it was a perfect job. Like I could have lived very extremely comfortable. But yeah.
But what are you here for?
I think I'm here to just be myself and take and just empower other women. That's one part of my business that I've started. Empower other women to live fearlessly, be unapologetic, and do what they love, and yet be financially extremely rich. So that's what I do.
Well, do you think women need that support specifically?
Absolutely.
Indian women or women everywhere?
Any women, Indian or any, rich or poor.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Why do you think so?
I feel that women should be extremely independent, whether the husband is rich or not. She should be independent to, financially, or even her work. Should not be, this is what I've heard, so many spiritual people. They'll slave away 8 to 5 working a soulless job and keep the rest of the time to do what they love. And my point is, why are you slaving away? Why can't you put the whole time to do what you love and make money? So that is what I do now. So I work with women is to like tell them, like, you know, we don't have to believe that I have to do what I don't love to make money. So create a job for you that you do want to love, that you love, and you can absolutely make money. This is again abundance block, that I can't ask for money for which I love to do. So for example, if I love to cook, it's wrong for me to ask money. And this is all the conditioning, social conditioning. You can very well be a spiritual entrepreneur because money is energy. If the relationship between us and money has blocks, then I have issues asking money. And I had to work so hard to get about it because I had the background that money and spirituality can't go together. So now if I have to open up a spiritual business, helping women to create their own stuff or teaching about manifestation, I had to first heal my own abundance blocks, that and reprogram myself and understand that it's money is energy exchange. There is even Patriji takes money as as donations, as pyramids, as anything, like creating this empire. So it's not money that's the issue. The problem is how you look at it, how you perceive money. If you're manipulating with money, then the fear starts. That negative energy starts with the money. It's like drugs. It's like money. Like if you can use money to buy drugs, or you can use money to help somebody. Money it's neutral. It's no positive or negative. But what you do with money gives that thing. So that's the healing that I had to go through. Is like now, so spiritual women, like there's nothing wrong in being rich. There's nothing wrong in wanting things. But the wrong is, the intention is how you get it, the approach. You be clear about what you want, and doing service, and everything will come.
Yeah. But I have a complaint.
Yeah.
Even men need all of these. Why only women empowerment?
I don't know. I'm sure, yes, you're right. Men also need, but somehow it's always been for me women. Yeah, because I feel like women, see, in India, I'll tell you something. As in India, or especially in India, women tolerate relationships because of this problem, that if they divorce, what happens with the financial situation. And if it can be a illiterate woman and a woman who is literate. It can be any woman.
Yes.
They will not divorce but tolerate the relationships because of the financial status. That is the biggest problem.
Yeah.
If woman has the financial status, she can choose exactly what she wants without worrying about all these factors. So for me, that is what, and there's so many women like that who are going through abuse, who are going through every abuse, and yet cannot voice because of their financial status, because they have to take care of kids. If only the women, and because sometimes even social pressure, they can't go back to their mother and father and ask for money.
Yeah.
They need that backing.
Yes.
So if she creates a life for herself, that she is independent and doing what she loves, making money, she will have no fear. She will live fearlessly.
Yes.
With that, of course, spirituality needs to be there.
Right.
So this is the reason why for me I'm so passionate about that women has to be independent no matter what. Whether you are a PhD, because I've seen many women who are extremely successful yet be fearful of this particular thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my reason.
Wonderful. So PSSM versus other spiritual organizations, for you, how different is PSSM?
In every way, I guess the first thing in PSSM which really connects with me personally is about inclusivity, open-mindedness. These two are things that are so prevalent in everybody who are truly connected to PSSM. They are open-minded to learn from everybody, not dismissive of anything. Like, oh no, this is not right. They're never dismissive. And this is what I connect even with him, is the way his vision is. And I'm slowly, even now, every day I'm learning this, what his vision is and how he's seeing. So these two things are definitely really puts PSSM apart from any organization, anything that we see.
Is Patriji PSSM and PSSM is Patriji, or any difference?
Great question. Well, I don't know. It's PSSM is him. It's his vision.
Yes.
Yeah.
Apart from him, is there any PSSM for you?
No, it's just him. PSSM is all the people also the working through the people who are behind the scenes, who are not seen, working in the grounds. The PSSM are the people who are, and especially in the villages that I'm seeing the work. It's tremendous. So it's all those people who are going village by village, town by town, spreading this message. So it's amazing how he did this. I cannot imagine how anybody in one lifetime can create this kind of, vision.
What do you think is the quality that inspired so many people in him?
Well, his perseverance, his patience, his willingness to go to any lengths to make it happen. There is nothing that can stop him at this point. Nothing. Since the beginning, there's nothing that can stop him. He will go sit before your house for hours and hours until you say, yes, I'm ready to meditate. And that perseverance is what I think people see through. And it's contagious. That's what is going everywhere.
Before that, I think it's compassion.
Yeah, definitely.
Based
Compassion.
on compassion comes.
Yes. Compassion, that inclusivity, making everybody feel loved.
Yes.
Well, loved, compassionate. Compassion. So you're right. Feeling that some warmth with him.
Yes. See, I am not born in Patriji's family. You are born in Patriji's family. If your father is not a meditator or a leader or a master like this, what would be PSSM for you then?
If he was not my father,
like any other meditator in the society.
See, that's how I got back into PSSM, because I see him like I'm outside his family. Until I saw him as my father, I ran away from him. The moment I realized that I am me, and I saw him as Patriji, that's when I came back.
Wow. Wonderful. So, coming back, how different is PSSM from other spiritual societies?
The three principles, Anapanasati, which I mentioned, that this is, I feel and believe, I know that this is what connects to the source. So you're working directly with the source energy, which is apart from any other organization. And the second is pyramids. Pyramids connect to that science that normal spiritual philosophical organization is not unable to. So there are two different kinds of organization that I've seen. Either it is all completely spiritual, philosophical, or it is all scientific, quantum physics. So PSSM is something that is bridging both together. So that is, I think, is a wonderful thing that the temperament that he mentions. You have to have a scientific temperament. You have to ask questions. You have to think for yourself, seek answers within. All these things are very provocative in the sense, like you ask questions like, who are you? What are you coming from? And the pyramid, the sacred geometry, it opens up a whole door for the sacred geometry, for the real science of the cosmos, not the science we learnt in physics and chemistry. That's like nothing. So now we are learning the real science with this. So that is, I think, is the main difference between any other organization. And the third point is plant-based living. He is extremely strong about it. And even on this, I'll take a couple of minutes to talk about it. He was very strong. In early years, he was very strong about vegetarianism, that you have to be a vegetarian. I don't care you meditate or not, you have to be a vegetarian. That was something I was like, why are you insisting so much? It's everybody's choice. If they want to eat, they'll eat. We are meditation teachers. Why are we insisting? I had that kind of mindset, like, why are you doing this, when he started that? But now again, I understand why he's doing it. Because when we eat meat, we stay in the red zone that I call. So in the 9 dimensions, I call 1 to 4 as the red zone. Red zone is when you stay there, you are trapped. You are trapped in your transcript that you have chosen for yourself. If you want to rewrite your story, you have to get into a green zone. That means the first step is to leave meat. Anything which has a physical heart, which has a beating heart, you have to take away from your food. So when you take away from food, because when you eat that, physical heart is highly energetic, higher frequency. So when you eat that, you are pulled into lower frequencies. So you will never even get out to write your story. So it doesn't matter whether you meditate or not. You first have to get into green zone. So, and this all understanding again I got through my own experience or meditation or reading books or talking to people. So now I understand, like, these three are the way he so strong about it, the way he had that conviction. I could never understand why he has so conviction. What made him, is it just because he was a Brahmin that made him so conviction? I couldn't understand that. But it is beyond that. So yeah, those three things I feel are the major points.
What is the major difference between vegetarianism and now the plant-based food means veganism, right?
No.
No?
No.
No? Okay. What's
So
the difference?
vegetarianism is anything, no meat. Veganism is anything with no dairy,
Okay.
meat and dairy.
Okay.
When I say plant-based, say it's the mindset issues. Vegetarianism, veganism, isms has religious programming associated with it. When I say you become a vegetarian, that means I'm asking you to take away something from your plate. But when I say try plant-based food, that means I'm asking you that there are some options you can try. So it's a different psychological, the mindset. There's no religious programming to plant-based food. It's a very scientific term. So that's why I choose to say plant-based food. Is that you go whole food, eat more plants, eat fruits, and of course that means there is no meat there. It's automatically meant that. So
you're not against the dairy.
I'm not first become meatless. Dairy, of course, next step.
Then totally plant-based.
Yeah, totally plant-based. Yeah, dairy. The more you are into that process, it will automatically happen.
So how do you think PSSM can bring a real change to this world? What is that unique role that PSSM is going to play in changing this world into a better place?
I think making people from slaves. I know it's a big word, but thinking for themselves, asking questions, understanding, discerning the lies within truth. It's like a fabric. There are so many lies with truth. And you don't know what is what because your third eye is blocked. You can't see through. And we are getting programmed every day with television, with media, with all these social media. We get programmed and we don't even know that. Television, it's televising your vision, programming you. So when we start meditating, we can see what is truth and what is lie, what to believe and what not to believe. And that comes within us. So every person becomes empowered. They don't have to seek approval or solace from outside. So that is the major change that I see with PSSM.
So what do you mean by third eye exactly?
Third eye is basically your pineal gland. Your pineal gland that is right behind your this part, which has, if you just Google pineal gland, it has amazing, it will tell you what all it does. Pineal gland is the connection to you and to your multidimensional self.
And how challenging it is to empower everyone to become teachers and teach. Because anybody can teach anything.
Yes.
To anyone. You standing in the middle, empowering everyone. Isn't that a courageous thing to do?
Well, it is. See, everybody is a teacher, we say, but also I think I am striving to also teach that we are also students. We are also if I'm coming to your class, even though I have all of this background, I should have a beginner's mindset. Because if I come with all that baggage, I will never listen to what you are saying.
Right.
So this is one thing that I say, any class you go with a beginner's mindset, whoever you are, it doesn't matter. You have 1,000-year experience or whatever, it doesn't matter. Go with a beginner's mindset, then only you can learn something. And I am amazed that he, after 73-year-old, after reading thousands and thousands of books, every class he goes, he listens like that.
Yeah.
And that inspires me. It's like his life is all about a success formula. It's a manifestation formula. So if you just learn that, instead of getting, I've seen many people through my childhood, from being in PSSM, now coming about PSSM, so many people growing in their spiritual journeys, but so many people getting trapped in spiritual traps, spiritual ego traps. When we lose the grounding of core values of PSSM, that they are not able to get out of it. And many people are fallen away also. So if I have to be here in PSSM with my father as Patriji, I have to be mindful about my own all these rules, that my own identity. I am not somebody founder of PSSM Global, this, that. I'm like, they're just title, it doesn't affect me at all. I am just me. So that is what I think is. I try to teach teachers, like, you know what, and another thing I teach, I'm very insistent, is that as a teacher, only if you grow, I grow. So always be in the place of service. Don't come, oh, I'm a teacher, you must learn from me. Only if you grow, I grow. Only if the other organization grows, you grow. So you must always be in the place of gratitude and service. Then the universe is going to give you everything you want.
Wonderful.
So, yeah.
So out of all these souls, you got only Patriji as your father. Why did you choose him? Why do you think you had chosen him?
At some point I was smart.
And what was that smartness?
That I chose him as a father.
Why you think?
Because I think the advantage of being his daughter is seeing his journey firsthand, and learning directly, meditation. I didn't have to. Of course, I had my own struggle, but at least to get to the point, I didn't have to waste so much time. So I think that is
also something from the DNA.
Maybe. I don't believe in that, by the way, but yeah, maybe.
So what, did you ever think on these lines, like what is my purpose of life? Did you?
Well, not really, because my purpose of life got clearer. It was never like, this is what I want to do. It always was developing with my own eyes. Initially, it was just this project, this is what I want to do. And then it went bigger and bigger. So if you ask me now, what is your purpose of life? Probably like, I don't know, like this is what I want to do. But I'm just here to take this message. That's all. Take his message, take PSSM's message to the world, to the masses. And yeah, and that's about it.
And what's the specific role that you're thinking of playing
in PSSM?
I know you want to give your best in every possible way, but is there any specific thing that you're seeing yourself as?
Well, in PSSM or in general?
In general, or in PSSM, however you see it.
Well, as Patriji is PSSM, somehow it happens that when I am there, it is PSSM. For me, my role is to connect people. It's like integration of frequencies, harmonizing frequencies, different frequencies, different, and that's why probably I'm in US, is to bring different races, gender, different backgrounds coming and harmonizing that through meditation, through what we are teaching through PSSM. Because yes, we are is integrating what we can teach and what we can learn. That's how I see myself doing, and that's what I enjoy doing it. I enjoy meeting different people and integrating.
Yeah. Can we know a little about the main programs that you're doing right now?
Sure. So from my business perspective, as I said, I work with women to empower, to create their own businesses from scratch. That's what I do. And also I work as a crystal teacher. So I created a course called Crystal Practitioner course, where I certify people who as a crystal practitioner, as a therapist, to work with crystals and pyramids and all other tools. I love integrating vibrations, different vibrational tools to manifest an intention. So that's what I do. And also I teach meditation, and I work with corporates. Since having a background in corporate, I very much feel that I should give back to that community. I know that they're in stress. I know that they're struggling. So I know that I can help them. So I definitely, my intention is to go back and teach them meditation, teach them about empowerment, not being a slave. So in as a stress management and resilience teacher. So I went to this Heart Math Institute. I got certified, so I can create this platform and reach them. That was my main intention. Apart from that, we have created PSSM Global. So the intention for Global is to collaborate with different organizations and to bring them under one umbrella and co-create. Because this is something that we can't do alone. We have to work with everybody.
Co-create what?
Co-create events or workshops, and to pass on this message to their local communities. So that's something PSSM Global does. And also connecting with all PSSM masters globally, to see what they are doing, to get inspired, to motivate others. That's one intention. So through that, we are also we have created an academy where all the pyramid masters come and share their wisdom as in courses, which can create careers for people. My vision is to create like a whole career path. If you want to be a graphic designer, how can you be a conscious graphic designer? So create a whole career path, a spiritual path, where you can create your own earning thing model. So that's my vision, is how can you like one of the principles for 18 is having a right livelihood.
Right.
So being spiritual, healing your abundance blocks, you can create a very abundant life for yourself. So that is one of the vision through academy. And the other part is we also have we are creating this whole for PSSM a central point in the sense called Pyramid Call Services Global, where anyone from around the world can connect to, and there's a whole process to it, orientation and path through it. So just standardizing a bit of processes. So that's the whole big project. And we have Spanish movement, African American movement that is just starting up. Hopefully next year we'll have more movement in that. So yeah, the main intention is to go to every community, every location and take this.
So if you see PSSM 20 years ago, it was all going to people and teaching meditation.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's all online.
Mm-hmm.
Most of it is online.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a different ball game. So
Mm-hmm.
how are you coping up with that, or how easy or difficult it is? What's your experience?
Well, I kind of like right now, because I remember in 2019 I did a Cosmic Reset retreat in US, and I called my father. He was one of the speakers. So we were doing interviews with every speaker, and he was in India. So I said, hey, can you do an interview with me? And then I said, we can do Zoom. At that point, he didn't know. I just said online. And I was like, no, I don't want to do online. I will come there and speak. And I'm like, okay, fine. And 2020 came and everything changed. So I was happy I was able to see him more, because I couldn't see him more before. So I had to be here to see him. So that kind of changed and really connected so many people to him personally. So that was a good change for sure. That Zoom is here, and now he knows how to unmute, how to highlight and things like that. So which is pretty amazing.
Right. So coming back to the question, what are you trying to achieve through PSSM Global?
I'm trying to achieve that we can work collaboratively without competition. We can be successful. So this is my concept. I made up this concept. It's like being local and global. You can be local but yet be global. So you don't have to choose one mindset that I am local and I only serve my localites. You can have a global vision. yet do work locally. In the same way that we understand we are this multidimensional being, yet we play our roles in this consciousness. So that is the understanding I want to bring, that you don't have to choose one versus other. You can be both at the same time. So that's my thing, that we can work collaboratively. With that vision, we can achieve more. We can, because once the earth consciousness rises, and that's the point, once the earth consciousness, we shift into the next density, and the whole PSSM is working towards that bigger cause. So when we have that vision and yet go door to door, so it's just having that different perspective of towards your work, or what the grandiousness of what you're doing is just not that, it's bigger than that. So that's what I want to give, that why you're doing this, why you're teaching meditation, why you are meditating. That's my thing, to make everybody aware of it, that you are bigger than what you think you are.
To achieve this, you will have to work with a lot of people.
Yes.
People means a lot of minds, mindsets.
Yes.
So you have seen your father dealing with lots and lots of people.
Yes.
So how your experience has been, and how is it right now, and where is it going?
Well, yeah, it is a lot of minds, it is a lot of mindsets, a lot of belief systems to deal with, to cross with. But I remember his words, like, if there is any, of course, for any organization, anything, there's a lot of drama around. And some people like you, some people don't like you, some people want to create drama and all that. So for me, what he mentioned, which stayed with me, was the concept of free will. Everybody has free will to do what they want. You have free will to do what you want. Let them do what they want, you do what you want. That stuck with me so much, that when people have this different belief systems or mindset that do not align with my mission or our mission, I just let it be. Let them do what they want to do. I will do nobody is stopping me to do what I want to do.
Yes.
So I will, if I can't, it's his policy again. If you can't go here, go here. If you can't go there, go here. That's what he does.
Yes.
So I am doing the same thing. He's kind of teaching me. He's there every time to teach me this, like, nothing can stop me. This is my affirmation. I am unstoppable. Nothing can stop me. And I say this to myself every single day, standing before the mirror. And my only vision is to, again, as I mentioned, this is to take forward. So no drama, nothing it can stop me. I will go forward. And somehow things will happen. I am seeing opportunities. I am meeting people. Even if I meet one person who believes in me, that is more than enough for me. So that is what is keeping me going, to deal with all these different mindsets.
And what kind of people you're meeting?
Every different kind. People who want to work with me, people who do not want to work with me, people who see a different path, people who don't like what I'm doing, people who love me for who I am. So it's all different kinds, and I appreciate all of that, that they are there and concerned. And I choose to focus on what I want to attract in my life. I'm constantly working at it. There's never, even if I'm on vacation, there's never a time I relax. That, okay, you know what, because there's so much to achieve, there's so much to happen. And I cannot waste my energies on things that I do not want in my life. I have to focus on what I want. So I'm always mindful about that, where it's like money, where I invest my money, where I invest my energy. I'm mindful about that. I close all the subscriptions that are no longer required in my life. I unsubscribe to them. And it's okay. And I don't get attached also. It's like I am there, but I may not be attached. It's something that I relate to him very much. If I'm with you, I am there, but it doesn't mean that I miss somebody else.
There are a lot of people watching you right now who would love to work with you. What you want to say to them?
I would love to work with you as well. Because there's plenty of work for everybody. It's so much to do. We need everybody's support to take this mission, bigger than, like, just getting out of our own comfort zones. One thing I've seen again with him is, He's always pushing himself out of his comfort zone. He doesn't know Hindi well, he goes to North India. He doesn't eat non-veg, he goes to South Korea. It's like he's always pushing himself to the edge, getting out of his comfort zone. There's growth and comfort zone don't go together. You have to be uncomfortable, vulnerable to grow. So we need to break those comfort zones that we have created, that walls around us, that this is my room, this is my space. Get out of that and just stand there and then say, hey, let's do it. So that's what I am. So yeah, if anybody is ready to break their boundaries and their comfort zone, I'm happy to work with everybody.
So a little about PMC. What you think PMC has done last 2 years, ever since COVID has come?
Tremendous work. Tremendous work. It looks like COVID waited for PMC to come up and then it happened, so that we can all be connected and take it to the next level. So it's a tremendous work that has been done by all PSSM masters to get that together, and working so hard to create content, to create that, share that wisdom. So absolutely amazing.
And how much of your work is through PMC?
How much I work? We have, almost now in COVID, it was all through PMC. So we were only connecting, and that actually connected us to so many people. There's so many people who tell me, I saw PMC programs and that's why I'm reaching out to you. So it amazes me, like people are really, watching who do not know PSSM. So that's pretty amazing to see that.
A lot of people are getting to know about PSSM through PMC.
Yes,
it's
absolutely.
PMC first and then PSSM.
Yes.
That's how it has become.
Yes.
So how do you appreciate the people who are working in PSSM or for PMC?
Absolutely great job. They are they're striving every day to improve that, which is pretty amazing, that they're always trying to improve it, always trying to see how we can give better quality or better standards to it.
How do you think we can do that better? In which aspects we can be better than what we are already doing?
Definitely, right now what they are doing is great, connecting people and bringing content. But I feel like we can even be better by cooperating, by sharing information in with all the channels, because at the end of the day, it's PSSM. You can be any PMC channel, but at the end of the day, we are all PSSM talking about 18 principles. And I think that is the binding force for everybody, that 18 principles. So whether PMC Valley grows or PMC Telugu grows, for me, it's PSSM growing together. So it doesn't matter for me who is growing. So in that sense, when we come all together and because we are all catering to different audience, we are all, global is catering to different audience, Valley is catering to different audience. So we can all share that information. We can all grow together. It doesn't have to be you grow, and I grow separately, you grow. We can all do that together. There's plenty of room for all of us to be in this. And it is getting better every single day, and it can get better much bigger way.
Any other aspect apart from sharing when it comes to, we teach a lot of subject.
Yes. And subject in the sense, it's about when teachers, there are so many speakers now, so many masters that are coming out and teaching about different content. One of the things I've learned from Patriji is that whenever he comes on Zoom, the first thing he says that I'm reading this book, and he gives that credit to the author. So he never says that this is my own stuff. In fact, even if you ask Patriji, how come you have so much wisdom? He'll be like, it's not mine. I've learned from all of them. So that is something that I've never seen any other guru. No other guru tells what books they read. So all the PSSM teachers, masters, I think it's one of the things that is that if we are teaching something, always give the credit to the author, to who you have taken it from. And that actually builds more credibility than taking it. Is actually gives you credibility, because you're doing so much research. You're actually investing your time in researching that. So that is one thing that even when I'm teaching, whether we are doing a teacher training or reinvent course, we always say it's okay to give credit. You don't become like it's not yours. People don't value you. That is again fear based. So fear based, that's why we don't do it, because people will think I'm not smart enough.
Yes. Even not sharing the content is also fear-based.
Fear-based.
Yeah.
We live in abundant world. If I share one document with you, that doesn't mean I am any lesser. And people don't come to you because of the content. They come to you because of your energy.
Yes.
So the only thing that this is something that everybody tells me, like, Pari, why you give away all the content in the global also? You give away everything. How does it work? Then I'm like, no. They are not coming to me because I'm teaching crystals. Anybody can teach crystals. Anybody can teach meditation. Deepak Chopra teaches. Everybody teaches. Why they go to Patriji? Because of his energy. So when you have that energy, people will come to you. All you have to focus on yourself, not on hiding what you're doing or where you're learning. That doesn't matter at all. So there is no insecurity then at that point, because my energy will never go away. It's me. They're coming. So it's just added bonus that I have this learning. So that's the one I think what I would like to share.
One last personal question, like towards the end of your life, if you look back and if you want to feel that, yes, I have done what all I'm here for, and I have achieved all the goals, what I have set for myself. So what are those things, the list of the things that would be there?
I have no idea what those lists will be. Even if I sit and write that what do I have to achieve, I have no idea. Because for me, I'm not living to achieve something. I'm living to just experience, to give what I can share, to experience love, experience sharing in my life. I'm not here to create or achieve something. There's no achievement, because that's an illusion. There's nothing like achievement. Because we live this, it's like, for me, it's like a game. Like, I'm here in this lifetime and I can relive this lifetimes anytime I want. I can come back to this present moment. It's a myth that we cannot relive. I can come back, choose to come back the same life again. And that's the deja vu people have it. So I don't have to worry I'm missing on time. Time is just an illusion. So there's nothing that I have to achieve. I have to run. I'm here. I have to play this role. If I'm not there, somebody else will play. It's not that I have to play. Because I'm here, I'm playing this role. So I'm living this life.
As part of the game,
It's part of the game. It's part of the game.
What's your target as part of the game?
As part of the game. My target is to make sure that I live every moment, make sure I am happy every moment, make sure I'm creating that environment where people want to be with me. That is my target. That is what I would want to achieve in my life. That people want to be with me. People want to experience life with me. So pyramids and all, building all, it will happen. It's like it will happen. It won't awestruck me like, oh my gosh, this happened. But the only thing is like having that enjoyment in life is what my target is.
Wonderful. Anything else that you want to share with the viewers?
Well, I loved sitting here and talking about everything. This is the first time I'm speaking with you, and it's been amazing. I just want to say that it's time for all of us to come together, work together, and really, we don't need any other distractions now. We don't need to go into any other We have the pure formula right here with us.
Yes.
We don't have to reinvent the wheel. We have everything ready. All we have to do is take it and follow it and teach it. So that's all I would say.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you again. Yes.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, viewers. So we have got the opportunity of knowing Pari Patri more today. So catch you with another master soon. Bye.